The Sigma male stands out in a world where a lot of guys are always looking for attention, validation, and approval, not because he tries, but because he doesn't. The spotlight finds him even though he doesn't seek it out. The throng turns toward him even though he doesn't follow them. This paradox, this quiet magnetism, is what makes women so drawn to Sigma males. Unlike men who rely on flashy displays, loud words, or desperate attempts to impress, the Sigma moves differently. He operates on a frequency of calm independence, a self-assurance that doesn't demand recognition but inevitably earns it. Think of it like the stillness of a deep lake. While most people splash noisily in the shallow end, making waves for attention, the Sigma rests quietly in the depths. And it is this stillness, this sense of mystery, that women find almost irresistible. They begin to lean in, to wonder, to seek his attention, often without fully realizing why. But this isn't manipulation. It's not about playing games or pretending to be something he's not. The Sigma's power lies in authenticity. He doesn't try to make women beg for his attention. He simply lives in alignment with his own values, his independence, and his inner calm. And in a world full of noise, that calm becomes magnetic. This video isn't about quick tricks or superficial tactics. Instead, we'll take a reflective look at 8 deeper truths, ways in which Sigma males naturally draw women toward them. Some of these might be subtle, almost invisible on the surface, but once you recognize them, you'll see how they shape the quiet strength of the Sigma man. So sit back, take a breath, and let's explore together. Number 1, their comfortable silence. Most men feel pressured to fill silence with words, as if every pause in conversation is an uncomfortable gap that needs to be patched up. This tendency comes from a natural human instinct. Silence can feel awkward because we often interpret it as disinterest, tension, or a lack of connection. Studies in psychology even show that people will often speak simply to avoid silence, not necessarily because they have something meaningful to say. However, Sigma males stand apart in this dynamic. They are not intimidated by silence, nor do they feel the need to constantly perform verbally to prove their presence. Their ability to remain comfortable in quiet moments communicates a deep and unshakable confidence, something far more powerful than nervous chatter. When a Sigma male sits in silence, he's not disengaged, he's fully present, allowing the space itself to do the talking. This subtle quality often intrigues women because it contrasts with a typical social pattern where men rush to impress through words. Instead, the Sigma's calm presence creates an atmosphere of mystery and control, signaling that he doesn't need to chase validation. Interestingly, research into communication styles reveals that people who are comfortable with pauses often come across as better listeners and more emotionally grounded. Women tend to lean into this silence, not out of discomfort, but because it pulls them in, encouraging them to share more and even initiate deeper conversations. The absence of forced words creates room for authenticity, making interactions feel less rehearsed and more genuine. In many ways, this reflects the Sigma male's larger approach to life. He is not competing to dominate space with noise, but rather holding space with presence. This is why silence for the Sigma becomes a quiet form of power. It builds intrigue, allows others to reveal themselves, and transforms what many see as empty air into a meaningful connection. Far from awkward, the Sigma's silence is magnetic because it communicates without speaking. I am comfortable with myself, and I don't need to fill every moment to prove it. For women, this is not just attractive, it's refreshing. A reminder that real confidence is often the loudest when it doesn't need to say a word. Number 2, their detachment from approval. Sigma males stand apart from the typical social script because they don't chase external validation, and this trait alone makes them magnetic. In a world where attention is currency, most people spend their energy trying to be seen, liked, or approved of. The Sigma, however, operates differently. He isn't driven by the approval of others, nor does he measure his worth based on how many people admire him. This independence creates an aura of mystery because people are naturally intrigued by what they can't easily have. Psychologists often note that scarcity increases value, whether it's a rare gemstone, a limited edition product, or in this case, genuine undivided attention. When a Sigma male gives his focus to a woman, she instinctively senses that it isn't casual or scattered. It is intentional. Unlike men who dole out compliments and attention in hopes of receiving something back, The Sigma's interest feels measured, selective, and meaningful. That is why it carries weight. Women often find themselves craving more of it because they realize it cannot be demanded or manipulated, it must be earned. This dynamic also taps into an age-old truth about human nature. We tend to desire most what feels scarce and unattainable. The Sigma's independence, his ability to remain centered in himself without leaning on constant reassurance, positions him as someone who doesn't need others to validate his identity. Studies in social psychology show that individuals who project self-sufficiency are often perceived as higher in status and more desirable as partners. This doesn't mean Sigma males play games. Rather, their authenticity makes them unwilling to fake interest or divide their focus. In relationships, this translates into a unique kind of value. When he chooses to invest his attention, it feels like a privilege because it isn't something he gives away cheaply. For many women, this contrast between men who seek approval and men who stand grounded in their own self-worth can be striking. The Sigma becomes a challenge, not because he deliberately withholds, but because his validation isn't a prize she can win through surface-level effort. She has to genuinely align with his deeper values to keep his focus. That's what makes his attention so powerful. It's not abundant, it's rare. And in the economy of human connection, rarity always breeds desire. And number 3, their focused presence. When a Sigma male decides to give his attention, it is not something done half-heartedly or out of obligation. It is deliberate, powerful, and deeply felt. Unlike many who scatter their focus across conversations, social media, or background distractions, the Sigma male embodies what psychologists call deep presence. In psychology, presence is defined as the ability to be fully immersed in the moment, undistracted by wandering thoughts or external interruptions. Studies in communication have shown that when someone listens with undivided attention, making eye contact, responding thoughtfully, and minimizing interruptions, it creates a measurable increase in trust, intimacy, and emotional bonding. This is precisely what makes the Sigma's attention so compelling. He doesn't just hear someone. He listens in a way that makes the other person feel seen and validated. Women in particular often describe this quality as magnetic, because it is rare to find in a world of constant digital noise and superficial interactions. Think about it. In an age where people can't sit through a conversation without glancing at their phones, someone who puts everything else aside to focus entirely on you feels like a breath of fresh air. That intensity is not performative, it is authentic, which makes it all the more powerful. The Sigma's attention carries weight precisely because he is selective. He doesn't give it freely to everyone, so when he does, it feels like a privilege. This creates an aura of importance around the interaction, almost as if time itself slows down. In many ways, it mirrors the psychological principle of scarcity. The rarer something is, the more value it carries. And because Sigma males are often introspective, analytical, and intentional with their energy, their presence carries a depth that others struggle to replicate. The woman on the receiving end senses that she is not just part of a casual exchange, but engaged in a meaningful connection. This ability to be fully present is what makes a Sigma's interactions unforgettable. It's not about flashy words, rehearsed charm, or grand gestures. It's the quiet but undeniable power of attention. In a society that constantly competes for our focus, the Sigma male stands out by offering the one thing people crave most yet rarely receive: undiluted presence. That presence alone can create an intimacy that lingers long after the conversation ends. Number 4, their minimalist style. Without needing extravagance, Sigma males often embrace simplicity, clean looks, and quiet confidence in their appearance. This understated style isn't about following the latest trends or showcasing wealth through flashy brands. Rather, it reflects a deeper understanding of presence and self-assurance. Studies in psychology have shown that minimalism in appearance often communicates authenticity and stability, qualities that naturally attract attention, without a word being spoken. Unlike men who might seek validation through flamboyant fashion or outward displays of success, Sigma males rely on a grounded aura that says, "I know who I am and I don't need to prove it." This quiet confidence creates an almost paradoxical magnetism. While they're not trying to stand out, they often end up being the most noticeable in the room. Evolutionary psychology suggests that women are subconsciously drawn to traits that reflect security, independence, and authenticity. A man who doesn't seek approval through his looks but still maintains a clean, put-together presence signals reliability and self-mastery. For example, think of figures like Steve Jobs, whose signature black turtleneck and jeans weren't about fashion statements but about clarity, focus, and simplicity. Women interpret this restraint not as a lack of style but as evidence of intentional living, a man who has his priorities set. It's the difference between dressing to impress and dressing because you're already impressed with yourself. Even subtle details, well-kept shoes, a neat haircut, and calm body language speak louder than designer logos or glittering accessories ever could. Sociologists have also noted that understated style is often linked with higher levels of self-esteem, as those who embrace it aren't controlled by societal pressures to constantly adapt their appearance. This is why women perceive Sigma males as magnetic. Their simplicity highlights something much rarer in today's world: authenticity. Instead of trying to attract, they simply exist in their truth, and that alone is powerful. Women pick up on this unconsciously, drawn not just to the way a Sigma male looks, but to the feeling his presence evokes, a sense of calm, trust, and self-possession. In essence, the Sigma male's understated style is a reflection of inner strength, where every clean line and every deliberate choice communicates confidence without arrogance and authenticity without excess. It's not just fashion, it's psychology, character, and charisma woven together in simplicity. Number 5, their selective energy. Sigma men don't spread themselves thin, and this is one of the subtle yet powerful traits that make them stand out in relationships and life. Unlike men who seek validation by being everywhere, with everyone, or trying to please everyone at once, Sigma males understand the value of their time and energy. They know that attention is a currency. Once spent, it can't be refunded. Psychology backs this up. Studies on scarcity show that people tend to value things more when they are rare or not easily accessible. A Sigma's time is exactly that, rare and not handed out carelessly. For women, this makes his presence feel profound. When he chooses to sit with her, talk to her, or simply spend an evening in her company, it doesn't come across as routine. It feels intentional, deliberate, and meaningful. She doesn't feel like just another option on his schedule. She feels like she is option he deliberately carved time out for. This creates an unspoken message that she has been chosen from among countless possibilities, and that recognition hits deeply. It's also why Sigma men often leave a lasting impression without even trying to perform or put on a show. They understand the principle of quality over quantity, whether it's in friendships, work, or romance. Interestingly, this approach mirrors the philosophy of high performers and leaders throughout history. For example, Steve Jobs was famously protective of his time, focusing only on a few projects that truly mattered. Sigma men apply this principle on a personal scale, choosing depth over breadth. Women notice this difference because it contrasts with the attention-seeking behavior of men who constantly broadcast availability. A Sigma man's selective investment communicates maturity, discipline, and self-respect, qualities that naturally command respect in return. It makes every shared moment carry more weight, as if each interaction is part of a rare collection, not something mass-produced. This is why women often find themselves captivated, not just by the Sigma's mystery, but by the way his actions silently conveys, "I don't give my time to just anyone. If you have it, it's because you matter." In a world where attention is scattered and distractions are everywhere, this focus is magnetic, making Sigma men stand out as rare, high-value individuals whose time feels like a privilege rather than an expectation. Number 6, their depth of thought. Instead of shallow conversation, Sigma males bring depth. And this is one of the most magnetic aspects of their presence. In a world where small talk often dominates interactions, a Sigma man sets himself apart by going beneath the surface. He listens intently, not just waiting for his turn to speak, but genuinely absorbing what the other person is saying. This attentive silence is powerful because it shows he values authenticity over performance. Women find this deeply attractive because it makes them feel understood on a level most men fail to reach. Beyond listening, Sigma males reflect before they respond, offering perspectives that often challenge conventional thinking. This is not about being argumentative, but about expanding horizons. For example, while many may echo the same popular opinion, a Sigma might question its foundation, bringing in a fresh angle rooted in his independent observation and life experience. Psychologists suggest that people are naturally drawn to those who stimulate their minds, and this is precisely what Sigma males do. Their conversations often linger in a woman's mind long after the moment has passed, sparking curiosity and a desire for more interaction. This depth creates an emotional pull far stronger than physical attraction alone because it awakens something rare, a genuine intellectual and emotional connection. When a woman leaves a conversation with a Sigma, she doesn't just remember his words. She remembers how he made her feel, understood, challenged, and inspired. That combination is intoxicating, and it's why women eagerly anticipate his insight. Unlike fleeting charm or rehearsed lines, the Sigma's value lies in his authenticity, his thoughtfulness, and his ability to transform an ordinary conversation into something unforgettable. In essence, he turns communication into connection, and connection into captivation. Number 7, their emotional composure. While others may react impulsively to situations, Sigma males carry themselves with a unique steadiness that sets them apart. This calm composure isn't accidental, it's a product of deep self-awareness and emotional control. Psychologists often describe this as the ability to manage one's inner state without being swayed by external chaos. Unlike men who quickly lose their temper or scramble under pressure, the Sigma male has learned to breathe, assess, and respond with clarity. This steadiness has a powerful psychological effect on those around him, especially women, because it creates an atmosphere of safety and reliability. In evolutionary psychology, stability has always been an attractive trait since it signals strength and dependability, qualities essential for survival and partnership. Women subconsciously associate a composed presence with protection and leadership, which is why being around a Sigma often feels grounding, almost like standing on solid rock in the middle of a storm. His energy communicates that no matter what happens, he won't collapse under pressure, and that is deeply magnetic. Interestingly, studies in social dynamics show that people gravitate toward those who display calm confidence because it lowers collective anxiety and creates a sense of balance in social groups. A Sigma doesn't need to boast, overreact, or dominate to command respect. His steadiness does it for him. This is why women often feel drawn to his presence. It's not just about charm or looks, but about the invisible assurance that he brings into the room. His composure makes him the type of man who can navigate both conflict and connection with grace. And in a world full of noise and emotional volatility, that quiet strength becomes rare, valuable, and irresistibly attractive. Number 8, their unspoken mystery. Sigma males don't reveal everything at once, and that subtle restraint is part of what makes them so captivating. Unlike men who feel the need to overshare to gain attention, the Sigma male understands the psychology of curiosity. Studies in human behavior suggest that mystery creates attraction because the brain craves closure. It wants to solve the puzzle. When a Sigma male withholds certain details about himself, it sparks an almost magnetic pull, leaving women intrigued and eager to learn more. Instead of handing out every detail of his life up front, he lets his character unfold slowly, like chapters in a novel. This doesn't mean he's being deceptive. Rather, he's intentional about what he shares and when. Women often find themselves leaning in, asking more questions, and investing energy into unraveling his layers, which only deepens their interest. The Sigma male's silence and restraint act like a gravitational force, drawing others closer without him needing to chase. It's the contrast to the typical dynamic where men seek attention. Instead, he naturally makes others seek his. In a world where oversharing is common, the Sigma male's ability to keep some things to himself becomes a rare and powerful form of allure. At the heart of it all, the Sigma male doesn't set out to make women beg for his attention. He doesn't strategize, plot, or perform. What makes his presence so powerful is the very opposite. He simply remains true to himself, his independence, his composure, and his quiet depth. These are not acts. They are reflections of a life lived authentically, without the constant need to impress. And this is why women lean toward him. In a world full of noise, he becomes the rare silence that feels refreshing. In a world where everyone is chasing attention, he becomes the one who doesn't need to. It is this difference, this unspoken balance between self-sufficiency and presence that creates the magnetic pull. But perhaps the most important thing to remember is this: the Sigma's strength isn't about women at all. It's about living in alignment with his values, pursuing growth and maintaining peace within himself. The attention that follows is simply a byproduct, a natural response to a man who is whole, steady, and grounded. So if you're walking this path, don't seek to attract. Instead, seek to become. Live with depth, integrity, and quiet confidence. The right people will notice, and the right ones will lean in, drawn not to the performance, but to the authenticity behind it.